please join me in welcoming President Emeritus of the University of Oregon, Dave Frohnmayer.
Thank you very much for the kind welcome. Thank you, fellow Rotarians, for giving me this forum, especially on this very momentous weekend in which I got to bring out a 15-year-old archival cap with the University of Oregon's signature and this rose on it. I know that doesn't quite meet with your fellow Rotarian John McCulley's approval, at least judging by the tie that he wore this morning. But it does remind me that we have many old friends in this audience, fellow Rotarians, people with whom I've spent a lot of time and worked together over many years. And I see with great enthusiasm my friend Jim Heltzel in your audience. Jim and I met on the steps of Union Station 52 years ago when we were both substantially younger, obviously, than we are now. And we were both headed off to foreign destinations as American Field Service exchange students. In my own case, at least, sponsored by my local Rotary Club. So this is something of a full circle occasion, and a very happy one to meet and greet all of you. Being introduced as a President Emeritus is obviously a new experience in my life as of the last 6 months. Someone says that really has the subtitle of forgotten but not gone. Or having moved from who's who to who's he very rapidly. And I can assure you that all of those things happen. But it is fortuitous that we're meeting today on the eve of a Civil War in which we celebrate an athletic contest. But my great and good friend Ed Ray of Oregon State University and I would agree that we have far much more in common, not only these two state universities, but also the plight of and achievements of and need for higher education than any one-day temporary rivalry might disrupt. And in fact, the winner of that game will play Ohio State University, another OSU, which Ed came from as provost, and which he reminds us, just in terms of what our state needs to do compared to what other states, that you would need to add 10,000 students to the combined student bodies of both Oregon State and the University of Oregon before you equal the size of Ohio State University. Saying something perhaps about the relative investment in higher education of our respective states, but also something about the pride that, notwithstanding our small size, we can have the achievement that we do in higher education. And that is really what I want to take our common time with together this afternoon, hopefully even leaving some time for dialogue. I hope that I do, even respecting your time limits. So on my sabbatical, it didn't happen. That is to say, the one which I'm apparently supposed to be doing, I undertook a 6-week project for the Chancellor of the State Board of Higher Education, which turned into closer to a 4-month sabbatical project, and which resulted in a 55-page document, which I entitled The Coming Crisis in College Completion, Oregon's Challenge and a Proposal for First Steps. And coincidentally and happily, at this very moment, the State Board of Higher Education on its annual retreat is getting its teeth into some of these questions, which I believe my report put in its starkest challenge. Because while there's some parts of the report, particularly my proposal that the State Board of Higher Education be given the capacity to create independent public corporation status for the 3 research universities, there probably is in the first 35 or so pages of this report, brought together really for the first time in 4 corners, some much more stark and recent news. And that is that we are losing the worldwide battle for college and university completion. That Oregon, although it's 16th in the nation and being in the top third of the nation, actually isn't bad in terms of the total number of its population who have attained a college degree. We're actually going backward in the sense that quite demonstrably our older generation, I guess of which I now count myself family apart, has achieved more educational attainment than the generation following us. That would be the first time in recorded history for this nation, and probably close to history of the world, where a succeeding generation is less well educated than its parents. And that is, my friends, I believe, said soberly and carefully, a formula for social and economic disaster, not merely for Oregon, but for the nation. And this is no podium on which I want to beat the state of Oregon over the head and shoulders, because this is an American phenomenon. Nationally, we are graduating fewer people now than our parents' generation on a per capita basis. Basically, since the 70s, we have stagnated. Now, the reason that that's important, I think, is maybe intuitively obvious to all of us, whatever our degree of educational attainment. And you all may know that I'm a first-generation American on my father's side, and it was only because he was able to work his way through college that his family and I, being part of it, had the opportunity for that great American middle-class dream of upward mobility. Education is intimately tied to that. Rotary's devotion to having exchange students speaks to the commitment of this club as well as our organization internationally in the belief in education and educational attainment. So in a way, it appears odd to me that I need to tell a friendly audience and one that's full of achievers of the benefits of education, but probably it doesn't hurt to remind us. So let me spend just a few minutes talking about our challenges. We know that on an individual basis, every single level of educational attainment beyond high school means, in the aggregate, a greater income producing capacity for one's family. That isn't just true in Oregon, it's true in the United States, it's actually true worldwide. And in fact, there's some data I have seen that suggests that those with advanced educations may earn as much as $1 million more in the course of a working lifetime than do those who have only a high school degree. The actual number is probably something less than that, but it is substantial, and it grows by every degree of college attendance that we have. So whatever be the Horatio Alger myths of other times, it's rather clear that this is the easiest step up to getting out of what social critic Barbara Ehrenreich called being nickeled and dimed. It's a chance to grasp the American dream, or the dream of economic opportunity more generally. And these facts that I've just described, by the way, are true of the 30 industrialized nations that are in the OECD index. So this is not a uniquely American phenomenon. Greater educational attainment means greater capacity to earn family income, to provide for oneself, to pay the taxes that pay for social services, to have the fruits and enjoyment of individual liberation and individual opportunity. So fact number one, and crucially important in terms of where we stand. The second set of facts deals with Oregon's changing demographic. This is a demographic that is changing rapidly and probably under our radar. But the growth in Oregon's population, and it is growing, comes almost entirely in non-Caucasian census categories, and more particularly, those of Hispanic or Latino ancestry will double in the high school graduation cohort in just 10 years. There has, in my view, never been a demographic change that rapid or that substantial in Oregon, ever, at least since statehood. The closest to it probably would be the inward migration to the Portland shipyards during World War II of those from the American South of minority ancestry. But that's really the only thing that's roughly comparable. So the question is whether we're really ready in order to educate that growing number of people, and it will be more people. Well, you say, we're doing okay so far. And I would have to say, my colleagues at Oregon State University are doing great. Their university had its largest enrollment ever. The University of Oregon is doing great in that respect. This fall, the largest number of students ever attending is attending the University of Oregon. The same is true of Portland State and actually all of our regional colleges. Something about an economic downturn really does persuade people of the wisdom of continuing education as far as they can take it. And that's a good thing for a society, notwithstanding the palpable hardship that I see on the part of many students who are trying to go to school and work at the same time.